everybody, welcome back to another layout update. As you can see by the scene here, we've got a whole lot to talk about, so let's not waste any time and jump right in. So one of the big things I've been working on over the last couple of weeks here has been scenery, and more specifically I've been messing around with super tree material in a few ways that I hadn't previously. Normally I'd just use these for your normal fall colored trees, but in the last couple of days I've been messing around with using some scrap super tree material for bushes, using some finer flocking material to represent a smaller leaf on bushes. And then I've also been messing around with doing pine trees as well. And I thought, it might be fun to kind of show you exactly what I've been doing for pine trees. For the pine trees, I kind of look for some of the taller and skinnier pieces of super tree material. This one here looks just about right for one. And then, the process is relatively the same for these as it is for my normal super trees. I just go ahead and spray it with a good coat of Super 77 adhesive. This stuff here, which is, available at Home Depot, Walmart, Lowe's, wherever you might be able to find it. And then to get a good pine tree, I've got this 2mm static grass from Pico. The same company that makes the switches, PECO. This is a 2mm. It's kind of like an olive green shade. I can't remember what they say the official color is, but I've just been sprinkling that on instead of the Scenic Express foliage material. It doesn't seem to bond quite as easily as the Scenic Express foliage material, which is really not too big a deal. You just go ahead and sprinkle it on, and then I've actually realized that in order to get a good full coat, I actually like to do a second spray and then hit it one more time with another coat of the 2mm static grass. But this is just I'm not the first person to adopt this method, but I'm really liking the results enough that I figured I would share it, just so that if anybody else is looking for a halfway decent pine tree, maybe this will help them as well. So yeah, there we have it. Halfway decent looking pine tree, I'd say. Not bad at all. All right, so here's a quick look at the Himrod scene as a whole right now. As you can see, a lot's changed since the last layout update. We've got all of the hill work pretty much done. All of the sub-scenery also is now done. The top part of the hill is that foam structure that you saw in the last layout update, and then along the front half that's going to be along the lake is all just cardboard lattice with plaster cloth over the top of it. So everything worked out pretty well. The back half has been static grassed. The front half, it's a very steep embankment, so I'm still debating whether or not I'm actually going to static grass that. Got to kind of work through a little bit before I'll know for sure on that. But this part of the scene is actually not the part that's seen the most progress. So if you give me just a second, I'll move on down towards Himrod Junction and Himrod Hill, and we'll take a closer look at it. All right, so here's a closer look at the Himrod Hill, Himrod Junction area itself. As you can see, a lot's changed around here as well. Here are those pine trees that I was talking about. This one right here is actually the one that we just made, and it's now on the layout, of course. And the hill area itself here, this will eventually be kind of covered with trees, and that tree tunnel that I referred to will kind of be in between the tracks right here. eventually. But really happy with how this has turned out so far. Got a lot more work to do, obviously. This whole area is going to be covered with trees on the backside of the tracks. So right now we've got a layer of ground foam down. We've got a layer of Scenic Express leaf litter down that makes a really great forest floor. And then we've started to come in with just a handful of trees so far, but this little hill itself, I'm estimating probably somewhere between, I don't know, 30 to 40 trees just by itself. So there's a ton more work to do. You'll also notice some of the brush that I've started to install here as well. That's what I was talking about earlier with the scrap pieces of Scenic Express super tree material. Just with a bunch of different types of ground foam or, other things to represent the foliage on the branch structure. But yeah, really happy with how that's looking. As we zoom back out here, you'll notice the track for Himrod Hill has also been ballasted, and I've gone ahead and also added in some riprap around the sides of the tracks, especially where there's steeper embankments, just to kind of signify that the railroad's trying to do something about washouts. And that actually, unfortunately, is a pretty common problem on the Himrod line and the Corning secondary, just because there is so much water, rushing down towards Seneca Lake, that washouts do occur. So the larger riprap is supposed to be to help prevent that in these places, especially where there's a steeper embankment. And I think it looks good. It was initially a much, much lighter shade than what you're seeing now. I went in with a couple of layers of gray washes, and I think I might still need to go through with one more, but I'm happy with how that looks. The ballast that I'm using here, this is also my first experience using Scenic Express ballast. This is a number 40, and it's their mixed blend, so it's kind of in between the dark and the light blend that they offer. I'm pretty happy with how it lays down and how it glues. It is a real stone material. It's not a walnut shell, but it seems to take glue a lot better than Arizona Rock and Mineral did. And Arizona Rock and Mineral is what I've got over on the Penn Yan side of the layout. And it took me probably 4 to 5 layers of glue in order to get that well secured. This Woodland Scenic, this Scenic Express stuff has only taken 1 layer. So it's seems to be working a lot better than that. But as we start to move to the left here, I'll give you kind of an idea of what things are going to look like coming under the bridge here. And you can also notice that there are a few shadows around here. Unfortunately, I did not initially plan for how dark this area of the layout was going to be in my initial lighting planning. So I do have more lighting on the way. That should be something that we'll talk about in the next layout update. But as we turn to the left here, you'll also notice that Himrod Yard has also been ballasted. And I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I've got Scenic Express number 50 ballast is what the darker stuff is that's on the layout here. It's a finer ballast, it's technically scale for HO, but because it's such a small, fine ballast, it's kind of hard to see the texture. So they recommend you go with a number 40 for any sort of mainline ballasting, but I think it works well for any sort of gravel parking lots, which is exactly what I'm going to have here in Himrod Yard. A lot of this is going to be, technically able to be traversed by vehicles, because at the end of Himrod Yard here, you'll notice that I have a few piles of ballast. And in the real Himrod Yard, there is municipalities that get ballast by rail here, and this is where they all come to pick it up. So I just played around with a little bit of a scene here with a few ballast piles, a dump truck, and an excavator loading the dump truck. This will be something that'll be eventually a little bit more permanent, but I just have to get the backdrops up on this side of Himrod before I can do any sort of permanent scenes on that side of the layout. But yeah, really overall happy with how this turned out for sure, and plenty more work to do. So we'll make sure we're keeping you updated as we move along on that side of things. There's been a little bit more work done over here on the Cayuga Causeway side as well, thanks to another sale at Walgreens, this time for 50% off banners. We've now got the touch-up work done on the banner that goes along the bottom of the causeway scene. So now there's a seamless transition at the bottom. I did kind of sacrifice a little bit now that there's a seam kind of going along the top of the banner, but I'd much rather have the seam there than at the water line when I'm going to have to try to match, the water coming out of the banner and then into the causeway scene itself. So overall, really happy with how it's looking now. And when I get around to it, this scene will officially be ready for scenery. One of the other big things that's happened since the last layout update is the Genesee Society of Model Engineers spring train show. And as a member of GSME, I was very busy doing that for the last couple of weeks. But I did get a chance to walk around the show and pick up a few items. So I just wanted to kind of show off what we purchased. So over here on the left-hand side, we've got a couple of buildings. These are just pre-assembled kits that I picked up at the show. And yeah, I think they work well together. I think I'm going to kind of use them, as the same facility. I'm thinking, even though they don't work exactly for it, these will be my OBE buildings, Oneida Business Exchange buildings. But, they'll work for that for sure. The other thing I got was one of the Atlas temporary construction container shops. This will be actually my Himrod yard office. There's a similar structure to this in Himrod. So I went ahead and picked this up in order to actually go right on over here, and I'll show you exactly where it'll sit because I only moved it just for this segment. So this is just about where it'll be right here on the layout. And, we'll get a couple of cars to sit next to it so that it really looks like a parking lot. But yeah, that's where that'll go. There's a couple other items that I did pick up at the show. I got this Rapido center beam in TTX reporting marks. I didn't necessarily need more center beams for OBE, but I decided, I might as well go ahead and pick up a couple. I'm one of the big things that I'm working on as far as operations are concerned is making sure that I'm able to forward cars from one job to another, and having a couple extra center beams might allow me to do that a little bit better. But I also did pick up a couple of row houses as well. And there's a really cool area in Geneva, which is actually, I'm going to be modeling Geneva in about the space that this little area is, just to the right of where we've been working on the Seneca Lake scene. This will be the city of Geneva. And there's a really cool area of Geneva where there's a bunch of row houses that are up on a hill and then they overlook the lake. So I'm going to pick up probably 2 or 3 more row houses, and we'll try to model that scene here in Geneva with, like I said, a couple more buildings. Well, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw here, there's much, much more to come here along the Seneca Lake scene. So I really hope you'll consider subscribing. If you're already subscribed, as always, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think. If you got any feedback for me, I'm all ears, always happy to hear it. And we'll see you in the next one. Take care.